You know, we're starting to see, I've said for a long time that as we get closer to victory, which we are getting closer to victory, this battle is going to get more brutal. The pro-aborts are going to get more brutal. The police departments are going to get more brutal. They're going to trample on pro-lifers' rights, and that's just what we've got to expect. There's nothing we can do about that. That's what's going to happen. And just this month, we've seen several examples of that. We're going to have a couple of people on today to talk about them, but one of them is a situation in Iowa where a 72-year-old grandmother has been thrown into jail. We've got murderers and rapists and stuff that get probation, walk the streets. Drug dealers. Yep, child molesters that are walking the streets, nothing. Here's a 72-year-old grandmother thrown in jail because basically she had the audacity to confront an abortionist and ask him to stop doing what he was doing. And she's still in jail as we speak. And I think we all feel a lot more safe at night that this woman is off the streets and we don't have to worry about her marauding around our neighborhoods doing God knows what. Anyway, we've got her husband with us, Dan Holman. Hello, Dan.
Hi, Mark.
How are you, sir?
I'm doing fine. Thanks for having me on.
Well, tell us about this dangerous desperado that you're married to. I'm like I said, I'm glad to see that we finally got her off the streets.
Well, Donna and I do sidewalk counseling at Planned Parenthood in Iowa City. At least we did until Donna was set up on November 1st, 2006, when they had the first abortion appointment come. The police were there right after that and arrested Donna for harassment. And it was nothing unusual about the about the situation. She just offered literature to the woman that was going in and talked to her a little bit, preached a little bit, while she was standing at the door, and it was just a normal abortion appointment. And we believe that Planned Parenthood had set this up with the police, and that the courts are also a part of this setup.
Well, I mean, what's her crime?
Well, she was charged with harassment and disorderly conduct.
For simply handing literature to somebody on the sidewalk.
Right. I have the arrest online, for anyone to see. I posted it up in 3 parts on dailymotion.com.
Okay. We'll put that on the screen so people can go there and watch this. So this woman's handing out pro-life literature on a public sidewalk. She's arrested for harassment, 72 years old, and now she's doing 30 days in jail. Right.
You see, as part of her sentence, the judge sentenced her to a 30-day suspended sentence pending completion of 1 year probation, and one of the conditions of that probation was to get a psychiatric exam and do whatever the psychiatrist tells her to do, which means, take psychotropic drugs. And she was also given a permanent restraining order keeping her away from Planned Parenthood, so now we can't minister at that death camp anymore.
I think people have no clue how dangerous the environment we live in today is. This is the Soviet Union. This is what they used to do. Put people in nut houses and send them out to Siberia when there was nothing wrong with them. Because she is basically a political prisoner.
In the old days, we used to call this freedom of speech.
Right.
Using your First Amendment rights to say what you want. Now, if she owned a newspaper and she printed the same thing or worse in the New York Times, she'd be exonerated. Right. Unless, of course, it's politically incorrect speech on the streets. And here we have, as Dan said, a railroad job. They tape her, they send her to jail, they put her up before a mock trial for a so-called mock judge, and sentence her to 30 days in jail
for using her mouth. But she can get out of it
if she takes drugs. So what happened to her freedom of choice?
Well,
where's her? It's her body, her choice whether or not to take these drugs.
Is there any reason that this judge would have any legitimate reason to suggest that your wife may be having psychological or emotional problems?
Absolutely not. The reason why she's doing it is because she thinks she's crazy for thinking that preborn children are human beings and that it's wrong to kill them.
We're making an example out of her. It's going to maybe to discourage other people from don't dare do what she did, or we'll do the same thing to you.
The more you deal, and you've heard me say this many times on here, the American judicial system is an absolute disgrace. It is corrupt from the bottom to the top. And again, That's we're drift off another subject. That's been one of my oppositions to the death penalty. How can you let this same exact judicial system that's putting this 72-year-old woman in jail because it says she's nuts for being pro-life, how can you let them execute people?
Well, when you make it legal to kill babies, you know, it's good. It's not just warped in one little place.
Right.
What gets me is Planned Parenthood is so desperate. A 72-year-old woman, they're scared of her.
Listen,
I would tell everybody, if they scared of a 72-year-old woman, everybody ought to be out there in front of that place then. Well, this is ridiculous.
Yes, it is. Dan, have you talked to Donna? Obviously, I assume you have.
I talked to her last night. She just finished an 8-day fast, and she looks great. She feels great, and she's in good spirits. And, well, I guess that's about all I can say.
When do you think that she will get out?
Valentine's Day is the release date right now.
Well, Dan, would you pass along to her that we're all thinking about her and praying for her, and that we want to have her on the show once she gets out or escapes or whatever happens?
and Dan, let her know that people are praying for her.
Sure
my wife and I, when we Pastor Matt Truella sent us an email about what was happening. When we opened the email, I mean, we went, what? And we prayed right then. Right. I mean, This is so utterly unjust. You know, words can't. I'm flabbergasted.
It's unbelievable.
It's you know, the thing is that we've gotten used to the murder of 4,000 Americans every single day. That's much more outrageous than than putting a 72-year-old woman in jail.
Right.
That's just. I mean, we're a callous country because of the fact that we murder 1 out of every 3 Americans, and we think it's normal.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Dan, for being with us, and say hi to Donna and tell her we want to have her on when she gets out of jail.
All right. Thank you very much for having me on the show.
Thanks for joining us today. We've also got another somewhat similar situation going on up in Pennsylvania.
Bob, just before you go into it, let me just read a statement that Donna wrote in
Donna Holman.
Donna Holman. We just finished, talking
the
with her
desperado
husband.
that's now in jail.
and this is coming from a nonviolent, peaceful grandmother that's been locked up. She said, had I stood before this court for opposing slavery to Jim Crow laws instead of aborticide, would this court suspect me of being mentally deficient or ill?
Well, at one time, they probably would have. Mm-hmm. That's, I guess in 1840, you'd have been mentally ill if you'd have been opposing slavery.
That's the whole danger. When good is being called evil and evil is called good, it put peaceful, nonviolent grandmothers at risk.
Right. And again, it's not like they've got a lot of this. The reason they have jail space to put her in is because they're letting all the rapists and muggers and robbers go. They're taking up a jail space with somebody that ought to be in jail with this woman.
Yes.
Anyway, my blood pressure's already up.